Great, everybody. So welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. We are talking about PIP number 1, an AMA with the authors of the PIP, which is going to be XRemX and TonyMontana. They did a great job putting it all together. We've had a little bit of time to review it. And I think now it's time to ask a few questions. But before we get all into the questions, TonyMontana or XRemX, do you all want to kind of introduce yourselves and maybe kind of share just a super kind of simple overview of what the PIP is and what you're trying to accomplish with it?
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right. Awesome. Hey, everyone. My name's Tony. I'm Tony Montana. And the idea was originally posted like in the group, one of the group chats by XRemX. And it was like there was just so much commotion going on at the time that I had mentioned it to Aiden. And then XRemX and I reached back out to each other and kind of started working on it. So that's how it kind of came about.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I think a lot of people are as well. The sponsoring idea is really cool. And I think the clarification that some people in the chat helped make to ensure that it wasn't just for purple founders, but it's for green founders as well. So every founder out there is going to be benefiting from this PIP. So XRemX, if you have any words you want to share before we kind of launch into questions, you're more than welcome to. If not, I think Viking, you'll be the first person to ask.
Okay, hi everyone. Wise here, and yes, I would like to thank Tony for championing this idea as well, because he has put in a lot of effort to champion it.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, yeah, thank you all so much. I just think this is such a kind of brilliant exercise in community decentralization and governance. But this is about the PIP that you all put together. So Viking, if you got a question, feel free to ask.
Yes, I got a question. What would be the policy when giving the NFT? For example, can a person with 2 or more NFTs delegate them to the same person, or how is that going to work? Because I couldn't see it in the PIP, and it got me very curious.
So yes, what you?
Oh, go ahead, Rem. Sorry.
Okay. So what you mean is that if one person has more than one founder, are they able to delegate all of them into?
Yeah. For example, I have 20-something NFTs, let's say, and I have found this professional Fortnite player, and he can make a lot of money, and I can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
For example.
Okay, so I mean, from our proposal, you can dedicate as many founder tokens as you want. Of course, this will depend on, I mean, the final decision will depend on the developers or the PlayerMint. But what we hope to see, from this is something like the scholarship program in XE, where the number of XEs you have, you can dedicate all of them to different people. This is what we hope to see as well.
Yeah, so the goal kind of this entire exercise, one is to create passive income for founders token holders, but another is kind of like to spread PMX and to kind of decentralize more. And so I think if you found like a professional Fortnite player and you kind of tried to stack all of your tokens, eventually PlayerMint is going to put a cap on what that player was earning anyway. So eventually they're not going to let one person game the system. So this is a way to kind of decentralize and essentially rent out your passes and earn a little bit of extra income on passes that you probably would just have sitting in your wallet otherwise.
So following up on what Tony has mentioned, I mean, think of it like the staking pools in Cardano, where you'll get saturated and then you'll get diminishing returns if too many people stick on one player or one pool.
Does that answer your question, Viking?
Yeah, okay. It answered it perfectly, and it makes a lot of sense. Thank you guys for considering it.
No problem. Aiden, I don't know if you want to chime in on that response.
Yeah. No, I think y'all did a great job of answering it. My kind of impression and thoughts there is that if what I love about this is it's going to bring value to the people that not only hold multiple founder NFTs. So if you hold a bunch of greens or a bunch of purples, what that means is at least on the purple side, you are going to be given a PlayerMint Pro, but PlayerMint Pro isn't something that can really stack in its own right, because once you've accessed that secondary prize pool, having an additional thing that provides PlayerMint Pro isn't going to give you further access to something that you already have. Like, you're not going to gain access to a third prize pool, right? There's only one secondary prize pool for the PlayerMint Pro. So what I like about this is it's going to provide those with multiple founder NFTs in order to essentially license out that utility to other people. And then what I really like about that, and where I think there's a lot of value, is you start to get into the world of GameFi, which is kind of where blockchain gaming meets DeFi. And the beauty there is that we're going to have people enter our space and want to own PMX and founder NFTs that aren't exactly gamers. So what it does is it almost expands our total addressable market to anyone also in not only in blockchain gaming, but also in DeFi. So there's kind of a cool growing of the end user and the overall market that PlayerMint can kind of attract with this protocol. So no, I think you all hit it spot on. And yeah, no, I'm super pumped. I'm super jazzed about it.
Awesome.
Hey, Aiden, I actually got a question from the general chat.
Sweet.
Since I don't see anybody with their hands up. We have G Living Sad saying, don't promise passive income. It could be considered a security. What are your guys' thoughts on that? And how do you prevent that problem from coming?
Yeah, so from the PlayerMint side, and then I'll let Tony and XRemX hand this. But from the PlayerMint side, our kind of thought on that is we want to approach the general PIP processes is brilliant people like yourselves kind of come up with an idea, submit it to the team internally reviews it, make sure they understand it, and then we publicly present it for everyone else to assess for a period of time before we hold something like this to kind of gather interest, answer questions, and then we'll hold kind of an open vote so that once we have that secondary verification bot that can support everyone with a non-NAMI wallet, then everyone can essentially vote, is this something that you'd actually want implemented? And then from there, the team can take that and spend money on essentially crayons who are our legal and finance partners. So in regards to essentially, before we're going to go off and hire out a legal team to do the research into, would this be considered a security if we offer these benefits? What we would do is make sure that there's a want from it in the community. But in terms of that security question, we would 100% go after and make sure that before we can say we will 100% guarantee the sponsorships, which enable a level of passive income, we're going to have to go to the legal team and make sure it's actually possible. Because the last thing we want is an unregistered security sale that puts us in some troubling times because we don't have as much money as Ripple does in order to fight a case battle against the SEC. So that would be my general take on it. Tony, Rem, I'm not sure if you all have another one.
I mean, if we had to reword it from passive income to, as a way to earn more PMX, that would be fine. I mean, the goal here is to earn PMX and, earn more PMX. So if we had to reword it, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. And I think there's, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I think it's still considered a very new thing in the world or globally. So I think regulations may change in the future as well. So, it's great that the PlayerMint team is thinking ahead.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think one of our big goals is anything that we enter into, we need to make sure that before it's built and we know that we can do it, we need to make sure that legally it's going to be operational. So I think what we would need to define on the lawyer side is what is exactly considered passive income. Because, for example, passive income that you earn via holding a stock through dividends is a bit different than what would be happening here, as the PIP that Tony and Rem proposes is this idea where you almost have this marketplace of people that are signaling that they want to be sponsored, or you have a marketplace of sponsors that signal that they want to sponsor someone else. So is that truly passive in the fact that every 5 days you would need to actually sort through and choose who you're going to sponsor and then enact that through some sort of smart contract? Whereas in a dividend of a stock, you just hold it and then you get paid out for holding it. So I think there's a bit of a question there where it's like, I don't think we're considering ADA a security, because you can stake it, and then when it's delegated, you're earning, every 5 days you're earning rewards off of that. Like, where it's considered a utility token because of the format in which it's offered, right? So maybe if the NFT, all you did was need to hold it in order to attain that PMX asset, maybe then it'd be considered passive income. But because there's some sort of active task that you need to complete in order to sponsor another person, we aren't technically passive income. So I think it's probably going to come down to a battle of definitions in my mind, and that's where the legal team will create that clarification.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Great. So does anyone else have questions they got? I mean, I think this is a really exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I do have questions, but if you want to take someone else on stage, because I don't want to hog all the time.
Oh, no one else. So for anyone in the audience, if you all have a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll bring you up. But until then, Viking, let's totally hear out your question, and then that might kind of cause more questions to be formed.
All right. What do you guys think about the delegators' ways to provide even more value to people to whom they delegate? For example, as a delegator, I provide PlayerMint Pro. What more can I provide for that player to be successful and have better experience? So I can be more of a mentor there as a delegator.
Well, one of the things could be, if we were to receive any free NFT drops, if you wanted to, you could probably give that to a person that you were sponsoring. But we want to kind of also put a limit on how many times you can kind of sponsor the same person, because it's kind of not fair if you find one person that's really earning you a lot of money for you to keep choosing that person and no one else can. Like I said, the goal is decentralization. So, we haven't really discussed it, but I think there would probably be a limit on, how many times you could choose a specific player. But aside from that, like I said, random NFT drops that we receive, if you chose to, you could gift it to that particular player.
So I think nothing is stopping you from reaching out, or maybe and or if this is implemented and the platform is live, maybe there would be an option for you to private message the person that you are sponsoring, because much like in XC, the scholarship system, they do know who they are, who are under their scholar, who are their scholar, and they can interact with them directly. So for this, you might be able to reach out to the person that you are sponsoring to give, to mentor them or to give them tips. The whole idea of this is to be able to encourage and allow as many different people as possible to be able to earn while gaming. So, for example, one of the suggestion for the staking pools, right, is that esports team, as we know, it's very difficult or very challenging to get set up and running, because they have very high costs in terms of getting equipment, getting entry fees for tournaments as well. So, by setting up community pools or esport team pools and inviting people to delegate to those pools, they will be able to generate hopefully enough funds in order for them to at least get started in the beginning, because we know that the money only starts coming in when they are really well established with all the sponsorships and endorsements from the much larger companies.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think the sponsorships make a ton of sense, and we have existing models that we can kind of replicate these off of. Axie Infinity kind of being that big one. I was actually talking with some other people in the community about just essentially the value that could be done when you have some sort of mechanism like sponsorship, where I can lend out that utility. And someone actually offered a service that has been up and running, I think called RENFT. And the idea being that you can essentially rent out other people's NFTs. And that's going to become a really big thing in the overall utility NFT space. And I think I saw a recent article actually about people collateralizing loans based off of NFTs. Like there was I think a $100,000 loan taken out on an NFT as collateral. So I think as we kind of experiment with these features, these smart contracts that enable the capacity to lend out an NFT or sponsor someone with it, we can also see reapplication in other spaces as well. And if we can open source that smart contract, maybe we can provide it to the other awesome kind of utility NFT holders in the space. So then we can have a go-to sponsorship model that might have been built by PlayerMint. It might have been built off the origins of this PIP, but it can really be applied to other people as well. So yeah, I'm super pumped about this, and I think it's going to bring a ton of value to the space. And if it gets through legal hurdles, I think it can 100% be something that we want to implement. Maybe it's not going to be a launch feature, just because you kind of got to start with something small and make sure that something small works before going super complex and big. But I'm super interested and think this is going to be really, really strong and really powerful.
Hey, Aiden, I actually got a question for you guys, for Tony and Rem. Regarding on how people actually select who they're going to be sponsoring, I'm not really familiar with the Axie Infinity process, but I had an idea of maybe there could be like a portal with the players' statistics and everything that kind of like tells like how often they play, like what is their score, how high ranked are they, and like people that want to get sponsored kind of apply for sponsorship. That way, say if it's like a 10-day window that you get sponsored, everybody reapplies every 10 days. So it's a different group of people going in. And maybe you guys can like cap it at how many people can apply for sponsorship or scholarship. What do you think about that? Or is that already being done?
So as far as the portal goes, I think that would be a really good idea to allow you to select, the players with the statistics that you would prefer. And I mean, obviously, as we incorporate more games, you might want to stake in a different game. So yeah, player statistics should definitely be on there, like game time. If that person has already played in the PMX system before, then it could show how much they earned the previous, I don't know how to say this word, epoch or epic, whatever it is. Yeah. So yeah, like I think the contracts should be determined by epics, because that's how often PMX is going to be distributed. That's how often, ADA is distributed. So I think just naturally trying to align the contracts with those would make sense. But yeah, as far as everything else, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, and I think
actually,
go ahead, Rem.
Sorry, it's actually that is how we envision the matchmaking process as well. I'm not sure if PlayerMint would want to do an auto delegation in the system, but being able to select who you want to sponsor would help hopefully build a relationship between the sponsor and the gamer as well. And but if it's too often, it might too much of work in order to manage, especially if you have like 200 400 tokens. So maybe we can do like every 2 epoch or 3 epoch.
Yeah, create some sort of kind of adjustment. I mean, maybe that's even, and again, and I was talking with this about with the amazing Cardano Craft folks that we're working with, is PlayerMint's general approach to development is like crawl, walk, run, meaning that we're going to build something that is, not to the fullest of its potential, launch that, make sure it works in that smaller state, and then upgrade it to the point where it's going to work in a more complex state, so that, let's make sure we can crawl before we start walking. Let's make sure we can walk before we start running. So maybe we can start off with something that's like an epic to epic based sponsoring system. But then what we can do is create a contract where I can modify it not down to the day, because that won't work within the PlayerMint play to earn reward model, but down to the epic. So if I wanted to, I could do essentially a sponsorship contract with someone that might be 3 or 4 epics along, and then I will sponsor them for those 3 or 4 epics, and that will be locked in the contract. But, so essentially, if you found someone that, you really work well with and you communicate with, and you say, oh, hey, like, I actually have we're playing to earn Valorant, and I know a Valorant coach, if you do one session with this Valorant coach, I'm down to, sign you on for my sponsorship for, 4 or 5 epics. And then there's this kind of beautiful model where now that person can go off, get better at the game, earn a bit more PMX, and then you can kind of sit back and enjoy yourself as you almost become like and this is happening in the Axie space, where you almost become like an esports team manager, where you're essentially just managing skill and talent inside these video games and doing your best to recruit the best possible. So I think there's a lot of cool factors involved there that we can definitely play around with. And I like the approach of enabling communication between the sponsor and the person that is the player. So maybe one thing that we can try to do on our end is enable people to connect their Discord account if they'd like to their PlayerMint account on playermint.com, because then you can DM someone. And then on the API side, we have all of this data on gameplay performance. So in terms of displaying their like kill death ratio, or their win-loss ratio in Rocket League, or how many goals they scored in the past 5 days, we already are grabbing that data in order to distribute PMX based off of gameplay performance. So it really wouldn't be too hard to rework the database to essentially display gameplay performance on the sponsorship side of things as well.
All right, that sounds great.
Yeah. Awesome. So do we have any other questions from the chat? I think one thing that I would want to personally ask, I got a question, but I think, let's give it to the community first to ask questions. So if anyone has one, feel free to raise your hand. If not, I can ask the next one.
Somebody has a question in the chat. I can read it off if you want. So, citizen of Perp Green Gang asked, Aiden, would that work for greens or just my perps? I got a ton of greens too.
Yeah, so I'll hand this over to Tony and Rem, but my initial impression, someone in the audience by the username Fatboy actually, I think, reached out to Tony yesterday in order to get clarification on this. I don't want to speak for Tony and Rem as they wrote the proposal, so I'll let them answer this one.
Yeah, so I don't really know. I went back and looked through the entire proposal to try to see where someone may have mistaken it that we were only intending this for the purple users. And I think the only thing that I could find was on the actual images, we use purple tokens. But aside from that, like, we never said this was only for purple founders tokens. We wanted it to be for all founders holders. We were going to try to figure out some sort of extra benefit for purple, like maybe, if green had to pay like a small fee that was redistributed into a community DAO that went back into PlayerMint development, or whatever the case may be. But it was never intended just to be for purple users.
Okay, great.
We hope to be as inclusive as possible, and all founders are still founders. But maybe some differentiation would, like what Tony mentioned, requiring additional fees to achieve the same reward, or green having slightly less reward than purple.
Great. Yeah, and I think I'll take the fault for any misinformation or miscommunication. In the initial announcement I wrote, I stated purple founder, so that's on me.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that one's on that one's on me. Because when I was going through the process, I was thinking, okay, hey, what's occurring here? People are sponsoring others with PlayerMint Pro. The only purple naturally has PlayerMint Pro within it. So therefore I instantly went towards, if I'm going to sponsor someone with PlayerMint Pro, it has to be with the purple ones. So that is entirely on me. My apologies if I created any misinformation or confusion. That one's on me. TonyMontana and XRemX, and this was pointed out by Fat Boy, is that in the very first page of the proposal, it stated that all of the utility is meant for both green and purple founders. And as XRemX said so well, we're all founders here. So that one's on me, everybody. My apologies for creating any miscommunication. My apologies.
But with that being said, it is up to the green token holder if you want to achieve pro to supply the PMX required to achieve pro. Like PlayerMint can't be responsible. It's just like your green token is normal. Like you have to supply the PMX in order for it to be pro.
Yeah, so maybe that's the distinction there is if PlayerMint if the purple founders offer pro as an underlying utility, maybe the utility that the green has, and this is just an idea, so feel free to shoot it down. Maybe the holding a green founder, the utility there is if you own enough PMX in order to sponsor, in order to go pro, if you own a green founder, that would enable you to sponsor someone. So the green founder utility is that you have the capacity to sponsor someone if you have enough PMX in order to go pro. That's one option. However, we can totally play around with that. And there were some ideas floating around that, maybe green doesn't give you pro right off the bat, but it makes the amount of PMX you need to hold that threshold lower than if you didn't own any founder NFTs at all. So there's a lot of things to play around with. And I think the balance is making sure that anyone that bought purple feels good because they bought it for that lower supply and for that additional utility, making sure that those folks still feel good while also making sure that green founders are feeling good and feel as though they're getting their fair slice of utility and of the pie. So I think that what I love about this proposal is that you all kind of instilled the idea that we're all founders here, whether you're green or purple holder, we should all be benefiting from new utility.
I do have a question regarding the purple and green founder. So I'm wondering, would there be an option for us to burn a green and 75 PMX, upgrade it to a purple 2.0 or something?
Interesting. That's very interesting. No, I'm sure there could be a whole nother pip on that one. I can definitely think about it. The one thing that instantly kind of, I guess, screams out to me is I don't want, essentially there's a big thing with like supply dynamics in crypto where it's like, if people expected there to only be 2,000 purples ever, and they bought in under the assumption that only 2,000 purples would ever exist, I would not want to essentially make those people feel cheated if they could have just bought a green and then earned enough PMX in order to turn it into a purple. So I'm totally open to the idea, but that's my initial bit of caution is I don't want anyone to feel like they got essentially screwed over or were misinformed and essentially bought something under different pretenses. So I think that's kind of the water that we got to navigate there. I'm open to that discussion, but I think more so what makes a bit more sense to me is that more utility can be achieved when holding a green and enough PMX in order to go pro. And that can kind of provide a utility benefit without it actually turning into a purple in its own right, just because we do want to preserve that supply dynamics. But who knows, maybe you can do something like, for example, if there was some sort of way to almost, and I've seen this done at the mycelial gallery that BigPay did, where if you burn a bunch of individual NFTs, you can burn them and then through a smart contract mint a new NFT. So maybe, and I think that's kind of what you're referring to. So maybe we could create essentially upgraded purple and upgraded green. So maybe a green can't become a purple, but a green can achieve more utility through having some sort of PMX locked up within it.
My initial thought would be to burn, a set amount of greens to create a purple 2.0. And you therefore decrease the number of greens that are around, so that also increases the value of greens. So if you played around with it, that could be an approach that we took.
I think that's a bad idea. I feel like the less greens and the less purples there are, the the lower it's going to be less decentralized. I feel like the amount that we had in the beginning should be exactly that. Like the more that this grows, there's going to be millions of people wanting to get these a couple thousand coins. So if you make those thousands into hundreds, it's going to make it out of reach for the everyday gamer that this is supposed to be for. Like not everybody's going to have, if you lower the supply to a couple hundred greens and the value goes up to like a couple $1,000s for just a green, it's kind of turn people away because it's going to seem like, oh, the only people that can succeed with that are people that are already rich. And, you know, I feel like that kind of defeats the whole purpose of being inclusive to every type of gamer. That's just in my opinion, though.
So I think keeping the number of founders the same might be a better idea. But I'm just thinking, if in the future you hold like 10 green founder tokens, you will always have to be aware that you can't spend more than, with let's say you will always have to keep 650 or 750 PMX in your account in order for all of them to be PlayerMint Pro or something.
Yeah. I think that's a good model is the idea of, because then you're not depleting supply and you aren't changing any of the existing utility dynamics, but simply you are stating, hey, the utility bonus that we can get through PIP number 1 that would immediately apply to purple, but then green holders, if they hold enough PMX in order to go pro, would then offer that same utility benefit. I think it makes it so that all of the utility that was initially stated in terms of what is going to be provided for at the mint, that utility is all held standard, but then we're also not essentially creating an imbalance, because the last thing that we want to cause is some sort of internal, I guess you could say, tribalism between the purple holders versus the green holders. We want to create utility for everyone. So I think that's what it sounds most appealing to me right now, at least from what I've heard. Great.
Yeah, if anybody in the audience has any questions, make sure you. Oh, we got Jay.
Yeah.
JIA.
I also got a question when the stage is free.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can go right after him. All right.
Yep.
Great. GA, we have invited you to the stage. You are welcome to ask your question. Sometime, and just a heads up, yeah, there we go. We got it.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Oh, great. Yeah, I usually don't speak up much because English is not my mother language. So,
You're doing
but I
great.
hope you can. Yeah, I mean, I hope you can understand my my. No, it's not a question. It's just a thought that I have about the effect of renting out the purple founders or the green founders would have onto the supply of PMX being staked. So the initial premise of PlayerMint Pro is that you need to stake a number of PMX, which the number currently is 75 as a placeholder, and people wanting to go pro would stake this PMX steadily so that they can maintain their pro membership and thus create a steady demand for PMX supply. So because we are all founders, so we would have incentive if we can be able to keep the PMX market supply demand in a good price, in a sense. So if we allow all our purple founders to be rented out, that would mean that there will be less players needing to stake PMX. I'm not sure whether you guys understand my question.
I see.
My where I'm going on this.
I see. Yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I want to make sure XRemX and Tony, that made sense to you all.
So I think I don't think there would be much of a difference, especially when if PlayerMint is fully implemented globally, where we have millions of players. Just 7,000 founder tokens wouldn't be considered a lot, and we are not saying that you don't have. Okay, so for purple, right, you don't have to stake the PMX, or actually you don't have to set aside that PMX. It's only for the green founders. And even if all of it was upgraded, so to speak, it's 375,000 PMX that will be locked. And because this comes from founders, it's more likely to be staked compared to actual players who control would have the founder tokens, I feel. Does that answer your question?
I'm just trying to imagine the case where it because well, if we compare a case where it is not where we cannot rent out or we cannot lease out our founder NFTs, then people who wants to go pro has no option. A normal users who want to go pro has no option but to need to stake to accumulate and stake PMX. So that would create a good demand for PMX. The price would kind of be able to be stable. So if users have the option, the easy way that is to rent out to get sponsorship from Purple, then it doesn't make sense for them to stake PMX, right? So they can just forever enjoy PMX Pro lifetime just by renting, just by earning, maybe giving a cut to the original owner of the founder NFT. So in a sense, like you say, 2,000 less players are staking PMX because they are able to get sponsorship from Purples, and Purples would gladly rent it out rather than use it for themselves, right? Because why should I use my founder NFT for PMX for play to earn when I can rent it out and then open another account for myself to play to earn?
Okay, so
yeah,
in order for you to achieve pro status, you do have to have purple. On the grand scheme of how many gamers that play, 7,000 founders tokens won't really have that much effect on the supply of PMX. We only have access to an additional 20% of PMX holding pro status. But gamers can earn PMX just like we can. They don't have access to the additional 20% pool. This is going to kind of, and these tokens incentivize like a scholarship program. It builds relationships with other players. And I believe if you kind of did the calculations, if you own a Purple Founders token, if you played yourself, you would probably earn more if you played a lot than a player would earn for you, because they're going to earn a portion of it. Now, the calculations have to be done by PlayerMint, but it has to make sense for them to earn more than they would earn if they weren't playing without a Founders token. So the incentive has to be there in the form of the earnings, if that's making sense.
So I think the additional delegation increases the player's own reward, and and redistributing a little bit of it to the person that is sponsoring as well. And it is not just sticking that 75 PMX. You will have to hold the founder token, and I'm sure that the Aiden and the PlayerMint team would have a lot more other use case for PMX, not just staking for the PlayerMint Pro, in order to increase the demand for PMX.
Yeah, and maybe I can chime in here in terms of I think Jay, you're bringing up a great point in terms of how does the added utility benefit, because we're talking about NFTs now, but how is that going to impact the fungible token of PMX? And I think the thing is from a development timeline perspective, we would launch the core product without this feature to start, because we have it mapped out and MLabs is currently speccing it out. And something like this needs to have time to make sure that the smart contracts are written properly and then go through an auditing process, because there is that aspect of essentially sponsoring or lending out, and you don't want people to essentially be able to hack that system, because that would create a new attack vector. So what I'm getting at is that where this essentially the need for essentially, if we're going to have 2,000 founder NFTs and only the purple, if only the purple can sponsor pro without holding PMX itself. So if the green can sponsor people, but they need to hold PMX in order to do so, in order to go pro and then sponsor someone, there's still 5,000 people that would need to hold that. So that kind of covers that issue, as well as that 2,000 people that would be able to do that at product launch. I mean, this is going to be a feature that comes in after product launch. So I think where that part would be scary would be towards the beginning of the core product, when you don't really have, you only have 5,000 people using the entire, decentralized application.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly
think
what I'm
it
thinking.
might become less of, by the time that this PIP, if it does get approved and we are able to implement it, by the time it gets implemented, at that point, the amount of PMX it would take away from people needing to not lock up, but in order to stake, that the amount that would have on the overall supply of staked PMX might not be as dramatic at that point.
I think from another perspective as well is that I'm sure that many of us here do hold multiple founder tokens, and if we are not able to delegate or rent them out, and with the additional 75 PMX per green founder token that we can dedicate to others, a lot of it will just be sitting in our wallets gathering dust, and that would actually reduce the need for all green tokens to have the additional 75 PMX staked. So by being able to dedicate it, and us wanting to maximize our so-called reward, there would actually be more people who would be upgrading their green founder token to PlayerMint Pro.
Interesting. Yeah, I see your point. Because now essentially, if I own, 10 founder, or I own 10 green founders, and I need 10 PMX for each to go pro, I would need to be holding 100 PMX for each of those to essentially be active. So that PMX Pro scales with the number of founder NFTs owned.
It's because it's on how many green founders are being utilized, and a lot of people are just holding it, hoping that the tokens will appreciate, but having a utility and encouraging them to upgrade it to PlayerMint Pro status would encourage more people to stake PMX. Maybe not on the player side, but on the sponsor side as well.
Yeah, great. I think we have the right mindset, especially Aiden, who really understands the PlayerMint product, where in a sense that the PMX should be, we should really, as us all as founders, we should really see how we can keep the value of PMX, to maintain the value and the demand of PMX. So I really agree on what Aiden said, is to slowly roll this out when the whole play to earn system is stable, and we can look into this sponsorship program. Like if you take the example of Axis, they only implemented this scholarship program when the entry cost into Axie is expensive. That's why they have this scholarship to kind of like encourage other people who wants to enter, but they don't have the money or the ability to do so they can get sponsors. So I really agree on what Aiden says, is that to slowly make sure the core product is well and running, balanced, and then slowly roll out and think about how we can run this sponsorship program.
Yeah, well said.
I think it was Viking with this next question.
Great. And then we'll have a Sierra. You can go after Viking.
No, Sierra, please go first. I can ask questions all day.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
We can't hear you
Yeah.
now. It was going in and out a little bit. We can't hear you right now.
Sorry.
Your connection is bad.
Are you push to talk?
Yeah, and also I know some of these questions might be a bit complex, but worst case scenario, you're welcome to type it out into general, and then Big Daddy's been doing a great job of reading them out. So if that's a bit easier from a connection standpoint, if not, we can give you another go and see if it'll work this time.
If someone asks their question first, I'll come in and ask mine.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right. Can you guys lead us through the process of submitting the proposal? What difficulties you faced? How you identified things that needed to be improved before the proposal was suggested? Like just in order to pave the way for more suggestions in the future. Kind of lead us through the process a little bit.
So, like I said, XRemX initially came up with the idea. And then when I reached back out to him, we kind of discussed what we thought, the proposal should look like. And then he kind of laid out a format of the topics that we should cover. And so we each took separate topics. And we just kind of bounced ideas off of each other back and forth. We sent documents over to each other back and forth. Kind of got ideas from each other, and that he did a great job, man. He's a real star.
I think Tony did most of the legwork in terms of getting feedback from rest of the people in the Discord, reaching out to Aiden, and championing this proposal as well.
Oh yeah, Aiden was instrumental as well, because he we kind of kept him in the loop and kept him updated as to what was going on from start to finish. So we initially brought the idea to Aiden's attention, and he said, okay, it sounds good, and then we kind of went from there.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember exactly who shared it, so my apologies, but if I remember, huge thank you to this person. But someone shared in the general chat yesterday, or they might have DM'd it to me, the Pavia, the really cool kind of metaverse land ownership.
Oh yeah, that was me. I sent it to you in the DMs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, it's like I swear it was someone that might have been talking in this chat right now. So thank you for doing that. So sent over the Pavia has their own. They also call them PIPs because their name starts with a P as well. So they have their own Pavia improvement proposal form. And one really cool person that I met while we can kind of work to see if there's some sort of, I know there's a bunch of plugins out there for websites to create their own forms. So we can either look into that, or actually there's a really great member of our community named Dreaming Dragon. And they messaged me and said, hey, I noticed that you all didn't have a Reddit. And it's just because I didn't have enough karma on Reddit yet to create our own subreddit. And they were like, hey, I made this, let me know if you want ownership over it, and I'll send it over. So they actually made me a moderator of the Reddit. So what we could do if we wanted to was either create a thread on the website, create our own like form and thread system, or we can use the PlayerMint r/PlayerMint subreddit, and we can use that as a pip. And then one thing I can also do is create some sort of, shouldn't be long, but maybe some sort of one-page document along with a video on like, if you want to submit a pip, this is the way in which it should go. And that can include principles within it, such as, hey, any pip that provides utility bonuses to the founder NFTs must create utility for both green and purple founders. It doesn't need to be the exact same utility, but there needs to be some sort of mutually equal way in which if I own a purple or a green, I can achieve some sort of utility bonus, as XRemX and TonyMontana have set out with the sponsoring system. So I think what I can do on my end is because I've actually already been messaged about another PIP being written. So that can kind of, once we make sure that we're all good on PIP number 1 and we've made a decision as a community, whether we want to move forward with it or not, we can I can create a more standardized process for PIP number 3 and on. So we can totally create a more standard fluent process for that. So if, I guess my final point be here, if anyone knows a good plugin or form system for websites, I know Liquid has one for their governance. And of course, Pavia does. So if you all know one, let me know and I'll add it to the site.
I think Talk to Me Nice had his hands up. I don't know if he had something on this topic that he wanted to say.
Awesome.
Or her hands up. Sorry, I just assumed.
Like,
Sorry.
hope everybody's doing well. Just real quick, wanted to mention the importance, as you mentioned, of having some form of utility for the Green Pass as well. I think that when we look at the cost, the initial cost of the Founders Pass and the cost and the spread in regards to the price, I mean, it wasn't that much of a difference. And the reason for the difference, I know, was seen outright, you know, one being, you know, more so gamer focused for an individual that wants to utilize that. And it was cool that, you know, that folks were able to pick those up that would have it. And then the Green Pass to me just had a certain level of, you know, contribution and belief in the initial, you know, the platform and the proposals. And it should come with a certain level of utility as well. I mean, I personally hold a little bit of both, but I just believe just being fair across the board, you know, a founder is a founder, as is a founder. I mean, it's cool if a founder wants to play some games as well, but there has to be some consideration in regards to what we do for Green Pass holders.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, and I noticed that there was a bit of tension in the general chat a day or two ago, just in terms of like, you know, the potential of essentially tribalism starting to emerge just out of like, hey, you might own a bunch of purples, and like I might have learned out about, you know, PlayerMint 2 days after the initial mint ended, and just because I learned about it 2 days after doesn't mean that I should essentially, just because I found out about it late and couldn't drop almost 300 ADA in the secondary market on one to get a purple, like I should still be able to benefit. So I think from a utility perspective, and as we move forward with PIPs, I think we'll create principles. And one of those key in the most founding principle being, if you're going to provide utility bonus to a founder NFTs, it needs to be to green and purple. There should not be division. We're all founders here. Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. I mean, just across the board, because for a founder is an individual who takes a certain standard of belief, you know, and investing, you know, and it's like I say, it's cool if there's going to be perks to the Purple Pass for founders that care to play. But, you know, but everyone isn't in that sense. And when we're seeing a great initiative, you know, that you want to contribute to, you know, we shouldn't be penalized, or others shouldn't be penalized because they hold a different color pass, but they carry the same title, so to speak, you know. So it's really good that as a community, we're looking at these things early and establishing, you know, somewhat of an even playing field, so to speak, you know, moving forward.
Are you guys able to hear me properly now? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I just wanted to say I'm really big fan of the way you guys are going about implementing all of these the PIPs and you know, the community governance and keeping the community informed. I know I've told you 100 times, Aiden, but you're doing a great job.
Hey, thank you so much.
Now that you can hear me, if you don't mind, if I can ask my question from a bit earlier before we derail a bit too far. What I was going to ask about was if you guys had made considerations for like the fact that in renting out our tokens, there's obviously going to be a market of quite skilled gamers that are going to be, I guess, taking up the sponsorships and playing on founders' behalf. And so I just wonder whether, you know, down the track, we'll end up with essentially pro gamers like outperforming, you know, your average founder token holder that is trying to play on their own. And so as a result, even though I might be like, so even though I say hold a purple and a bunch of greens and I'm playing myself, I can't hope to outperform a professional gamer that's just like cracked at every game. You know what I mean? So my question, I suppose, is like, has considerations been made for that? Like, will the actual holder playing themselves be generating a higher rate of, or I guess, find it easier to make their way up the leaderboard for the PMX prize pool than say a pro gamer playing on a sponsorship?
I'm happy to answer this just from like the PlayerMint side of thing. I do want to give XRemX and TonyMontana the initial capacity to answer if you all have any thoughts. If not, I'll jump into mine.
Yeah, I think I don't have it. I mean, I have an answer, but I think you could probably answer this one better than I can.
Awesome. XRemX, do you
So
want?
I feel
Yeah.
so I feel that I mean, if you are sponsored and if you are playing the game itself, you should still be able to earn more if you are playing the game itself. The very fact that you are sponsored means that you have to share the amount of PMX that is being minted, and if it gets too out of hand, I think the player mint team can always put tax of a certain percentage of the amount minted and go into a reward pool, or divert it into another pool as well.
Right. So I guess I don't know, one potential idea on that front that has sort of come to mind for me is, say if I suppose like all the non-founder token holders, so that is the players that are sponsored but not holders of tokens themselves, if say, like, these are arbitrary figures obviously, but let's say that the rewards were split 50% to the sponsor, the person holding the token, and then say like 40% went to the player themselves. And if you could take 10% and put it into the PMX prize pool to be distributed to all holders every epoch, regardless of leaderboard position, something like that could be a potential solution to that, or at least something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, I totally like that. I think the one thing I'm worried about, and I love those ideas, and I really like that idea of like, let's make it so that as many people can earn PMX as possible, because it's all about decentralization. Just the only thing I always come back to with this is mechanism design, which is the design of incentives. So the one thing in terms of getting rewarded for just being a part of the system, the one problem there is you're going to have a lot of people that join the system just to pick up on that small reward, but never essentially are part of the actual contribution. So for example, there was the question rose, if I don't play at all, I mean, essentially the idea being we rank people on a leaderboard, and based off of where you rank, you earn PMX. People essentially saying, well, hey, if I don't do any gameplay performance at all, will I still end up in that leaderboard? I might be at the bottom of it, but I should still get some PMX for it. My answer being, well, hey, we can't really reward people and distribute out rewards just because they have an account in a wallet associated with PlayerMint. The problem there that being that you'd get a ton of people that sign up for PlayerMint that never actually plan on using the play to earn services. And what that does is it creates this very long tail of people that all are at the same, essentially zero gameplay experience or zero gameplay skill performed, that are all picking up very small incremental amounts of PMX, but all of that small incremental amounts of PMX across a large amount of people actually detract from the overall amount of value that is going to be distributed to people that are actually playing. So the problem when we were actually scaling this out and running simulations is if you create a very long tail, the people at the end of that tail are going to get just really small amounts of PMX that isn't a meaningful payout, but it's going to be enough collectively to detract value from the people that are actually playing to earn. So in terms of how we can essentially avoid the pros in the gaming world from earning more PMX from founder holders, I mean, it ultimately comes down to the fact that we have a system based off of gameplay performance. And so if you're better at a game, you earn more of the currency. And so naturally speaking, it's as soon as we start to tinker that so that if you aren't as good at the game, that you can still have some sort of upper edge, you start to create essentially areas in which the mechanism design, that incentive system, starts to fall apart. And people can now start to game the system by being a part of it, but essentially not playing any video games in order to actually benefit from it. So I think one thing to keep in mind here is that, if you play to earn on PlayerMint, you're going to be earning PMX. However, there are going to be people that are the streamers of the world that are essentially, I'm, the equivalent of Tim the Tap Man, and I'm playing Warzone and I'm a super entertaining, and I have this great community that I formed through, my capacity to be charismatic and interesting. And I'm playing these video games and I'm earning a ton of PMX because I'm a streamer and because I play 8 hours a day, every single day. you are going to be the person that earns the most amount of PMX. But the thing is a lot of these pro streamers, if they're using PlayerMint, they're also going to be bringing massive amounts of value, because if you have a community the size of Nick Merckx, Tim the Tatman, or Ninjas that are using PlayerMint, the amount of interest, engagement, and audience that they bring to the PlayerMint table far outweighs the amount of PMX that they're going to be earning over everybody else. So I think in terms of these pro players, just because they're really, really good at the video game, we can't kind of penalize them just because they're great at the video game and they're willing to put in the hours in order to earn the PMX. So there's a tough balance there, and I'm 100% happy to hear out people's thoughts. But I guess that's been my general take on it.
Yeah, I totally see what you're coming from there. That all makes a ton of sense. I guess sort of what I was sort of getting at was not necessarily that, the people that spend the most time playing the most and are at the best. I have no real problem with them being the ones that earn the most PMX. I suppose my concern was more that, like, if renting out your tokens to the market of highly professional, very skilled gamers would end up being, a no-brainer, more lucrative than say playing yourself. I guess what I'm getting at in a single sentence would be that I think the rewards for putting your own time into playing with your own founders token should outweigh like if you actually put in time to it. So I see what you're saying about people just holding the token and expecting, no matter how small, some amount of reward, just for being, having the wallet address associated with PlayerMint. But and that would obviously deplete like the overall pool available for those that do utilize the product the way it's meant to be used. So I guess if like this proposal, this PIP that we've got here could end up being quite integral to, I suppose, the balance of getting those investors that want a passive income stream but may not necessarily have the time to be playing games that much. And so I guess the actual numbers and the mechanisms and stuff can all be nutted out and iterated on by the team. But I suppose, like, if you were to say, again, these are arbitrary numbers, if you only had an hour or two per week to spend on gaming and tokens, then it would be a no-brainer just to rent them out to other gamers to play for you. And so I guess that would kind of in and of itself almost solve the problem of people wanting to just hold and get rewards for doing nothing. And so that sort of makes sure that all of the tokens are being used as often as possible. So I have honestly lost my train of thought and forgot what I was getting at, but
No
good job.
I think I understand what you were initially concerned about, which was basically, you didn't want to be competing with a gamer that's using another founder's token. But I mean, even if the gamer didn't have the founder's token, he's still probably going to earn more PMX than a founder that's playing with a founder's token, because, again, as Aiden said, we can't penalize gamers for being really good. They're going to earn PMX regardless. And so this is just a way for you, if you have additional tokens, to earn some of that PMX as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a self-resolving issue in the sense that if you're a pro gamer and you want to start playing PlayerMint, what are you going to do? You're going to look in order to, how can I put myself in the best position in the system? One way is going to be saying, hey, I want to go pick up a purple or green founder token. So one, that's creating demand for the purple and green founder tokens, which I'm sure you all would love to see. Additionally, I would assume that if I'm a pro player that has a very high quality gaming history, if I'm that Tim the Tatman or Nick Merckx, I'm going to have a lot more leverage to say I deserve a higher percentage of the PMX prize pool that I generate through being sponsored. So for example, if the standard is if there's a 20%, the PlayerMint Pro is 20% of the distributing supply every 5 days. If I'm a pro user, I'm going to say, okay, hey, if you sponsor me, you're only going to get 20% of that pro pool that I earn, and I'm going to take 80% of that. Whereas if I'm not a pro player, I don't have that same leverage. So you might be able to essentially say, okay, I'm not a pro player, I'm a casual gamer, so you're going to take 50% and I'm going to take 50%. So I think naturally through that kind of open market, you'll see that the natural breakdown where if you have more skill, you're going to walk away with more of that PMX earned. Whereas if you have less skill, the sponsor might have more leverage in that case. Then I'd also say that a lot of these pro players are you can achieve, and like we said earlier, you can achieve PlayerMint Pro through holding a certain amount of PMX. Now that PMX, the placeholder amount is 75, but we're going to adjust that number and kind of create an economic model that will adjust that over time. But once that number is set, at least for the first epic or the second epic or whatever it is, these pro users are going to be the ones that are earning, not pro as in PlayerMint Pro, but these professional gamers are going to be the ones that are earning a lot of PMX. So they're going to be able to achieve that. I can be pro every single epic without sponsorship themselves. Maybe that's not going to happen after the first 2 or 3 epics, but if they're really grinding and playing a lot within a month of using PlayerMint, and they're a streamer playing every single day, 8 hours a day, they might be able to earn enough PMX to the point where they're able to just go pro through their PMX holding. So it's almost an issue that might self-resolve itself through having an open market that doesn't have those, I guess you could say, regulatory environment. I guess that's my kind of instant take.
Yeah, I think you make an interesting point on the percentage of earnings from the sponsored player and the sponsor themselves being dynamic and attached to the sponsored player's performance. And I think that's something that down the line, as smart contract ecosystems expand and functionality improves and all that sort of stuff, I think maybe you could even build in some sort of mechanic where, if the sponsored player were to reach a certain threshold on the leaderboard, then they could be that would take them to the next tier of the reward split. So say if they're bottom half of the leaderboard, they might only get 30% of the total PMX reward, but if they make it to top 10, they might end up with 70-80%, like you say. And so it wouldn't necessarily have to be a one-on-one negotiation between player and sponsor. It could just be, you play good, you get more good rewards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All sort of controlled through a smart contract.
They're both good ideas. Sorry to interrupt. Can I speak? It will be for sure a short intervention. I'm just to bring back. I make my words of talking to be nice. I think he talked about the difference between the green player mint, the player green, the green founders and the purple founders. There are short difference between the mint price. So the percentage of the differences of the prices shouldn't be the same amount of percentage of earning PMX. Just an idea, just a thought, of course, because I'm one of unfortunate guys that just couldn't buy a purple by one day. They were sold out day after. So can you?
I mean, just to add before you answer to what Fulang is saying, again, I just would like to see the value, clearly, outlined in the Green Founders token. Like you mentioned, the cost, in regards to securing them, it's not very different. So when we look at value attached to this, we might as well
I was just making my words. What you talked about on your last question.
Correct. And I'm just reiterating it because I'm hearing a lot of talk in regards to the Purple Founders Pass. And again, founder is founder as is founder. And in regards to utility being a little extra, I could comprehend that. But the disparate extra is a little bit, I just want to comprehend where is the value in regards to holding a Green Founders Pass.
I want the purple too, for sure. But they are.
Hey, I got a question for Talk to Menace. You're asking about, what's the value for the green? And I see here, when they list out everything that a green and a purple founder get, the only difference is the lifetime PlayerMint Pro. Everything else that a purple founder gets, a green founder gets. So I'm just a little curious as to what is the extra that you want, because purple and green get the exact same thing except for one thing. And then in regards to the PIP.
I didn't
Only
ask.
difference.
I didn't ask for any extra. I'm not personally asking for anything. I'm asking to hear. We're having discussions about about benefits in regards to a purple pass. But I'm not hearing clearly, like you're saying, how benefits are trickling into the green pass. That's what I'm asking for. I'm not personally asking for anything.
We said the proposal was for green and purple pass
Yeah.
holders. It wasn't just for purple.
Got it.
It's for both.
Got it.
I got it clear. No, thank you.
Yeah, so I think we'll make it very clear. And again, that's my apologies if I created any confusion in that regard with my initial announcement. But XRemX and TonyMontana's PIP number 1, the utility described in that is aimed at providing to all founders, whether you're holding purple or green. So any benefits described here should benefit anybody holding a founder NFT, regardless of what color it is. I'm not sure if that helps anybody out, but yeah. Well, I think the idea there is let's just make sure that our wording is correct and we're referring to them as founder NFTs as opposed to purple and green. I've even been thinking about, hey, we currently have a purple founder NFT role, and we have a green founder role. And my thought is I'm going to do a little of the founder voting through this, but I'm going to see how do you all feel about essentially just removing the purple role and the green role and just creating one founder, essentially founder role. And so whether you hold green or purple, you obtain the same role, because it isn't about, yeah.
That won't be fair for the purple. So I think for the purple holders, you're right, they were only 2,000 of purple, right?
So making sure, yeah, I think that's the balance. But overall, I think one thing that we can all be happy about is no matter whether you hold a green or a purple founder.
We are all founders, so sure.
Yeah, so we're all founders. But I think I'm talking a little bit too much, so I'm gonna let XRemX and TonyMontana answer more.
No, I didn't really have anything to say. I was just gonna like I said, everything that we do or any ideas that we propose or that you guys propose, we want to benefit everyone. And obviously it would be up for vote, but I would love to just be known as a founder as opposed to, I hold both. So, I had read through the chat. Propose this might own a lot of purples or
purple.
Yeah. I don't think like that, and I don't think XRemX thinks like that. We just wanted to do something that was good for the community overall. And I think we kind of got to all start thinking like that. Like, how can we build this PlayerMint community? Because if it does, reach its potential, then PlayerMint is going to be huge. It's probably going to be a lot bigger than 7,000 NFTs. If you have a lot of, if we can start onboarding gaming companies and you start getting other blockchain games built on Launchpad, like it could be really big. So, we need to start thinking about how we can all grow the system.
Sure. Instead of having two teams, the green team and the purple team inside the same project, we shouldn't be divided. And that's not the goal, I think.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Agree as well.
That's exactly what I was attesting to as a founder, who holds both the same, that we add value across the board, that we consider, PlayerMint to be in the stages that it's in. And we have to be very sensitive with, how we present, and how we go forward in regards to the utility, and being across the board, being very inclusive. So I'm definitely, I would vote for having founders as founders, because again, the perk of having a pro founder is for those who want to play. And like I say, holding both for me, I personally won't play. But in terms of having a green pass, for those who hold just the green, I don't see the difference in regards to that, So we need to really focus on value across the board and just making the entire experience, be something that's remarkable.
Well said. Well said. We're all founders here, so we might as well not at the Discord role level create some level of division. So I think I'll pose that vote because I'm all about community input, but I'm definitely a proponent of, and this is kind of getting off topic from the PIP, so we'll realign focus. But I'm definitely a proponent of, if you have a founder NFT, doesn't matter if it's green or purple, we'll all have the same role in the Discord, because at the moment there's no difference in terms of the permissions that it provides you. If you have purple or green, you see the same founder announcements, founder voting, and founder chat. So there's no difference from a Discord access level. So we might as well, if we can remove any level of tribalism from a social presentation standpoint, we might as well. But anyways, back onto the PIP-1. We're all founders here. The utility benefit will be to both green and purple founders. So if anyone has any questions pertaining to the PIP for TonyMontana and XRemX, you're more than welcome to speak.
No questions directly for them. I just have to say, great work across the board. I mean, again, I know it's really, really early, and the work that you guys are doing is not going unnoticed. You know, just keep on pushing. It's going to be great. You know what I mean? The entire initiative itself, PlayerMint, you know, being one of the first in the space to do what you guys are doing, or what we're doing as a collective, is just amazing. And just keep on pushing, keep the great work up, and you know, all is going to be well, man.
Woo! Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think we're all doing amazing stuff here, and I mean, the fact that we have within 2 weeks of launching our mint, we already have one PlayerMint improvement proposal that we're publicly discussing and reviewing and having cool iterative thought processes on. So I just, yeah, thank you all so much. Really, really cool stuff. Got just a massive thank you and round of applause for XRemX and TonyMontana for taking those first steps towards community governance and building something that it seems like everybody really wants to see. So, but I'll try to speak a little bit less and give more of the floor to those two wonderful individuals. It seems like Sile, you have the floor now, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So just kind of like spitballing off the general idea of like sponsorship, have you guys thought about ways to like create further benefit for the actual player being sponsored? So for example, like in the nominator validator model, if there's like an upcoming player who's really good, you know, presumably they're getting a lot of delegations, and it seems like there might be a way for us to almost like sponsor that person's career in pro gaming. And just wanted to share my thoughts about that and see what you think.
Go ahead, XRemX.
Yeah, so I guess for our current proposal, it's just the dedication of the founder tokens and, you know, the increased earnings in PMX. But I think like what we have mentioned in the beginning, I think someone have talked about this as well. You know, it might be possible to implement a private message channel that, you know, you can communicate with the players, and, you know, either you can do your mentoring, or you can you know, send them additional benefits or rewards to show your appreciation, you know, for them helping you earn more PMX as well.
Maybe a PMX tip jar, or, you know, something in the form of that for the players to incentivize them. I had suggested that, you know, if you had somebody that you really liked that you were sponsoring, if you got, you know, an NFT drop from a collaboration that PlayerMint had, you could potentially, you know, gift that to the user. I mean, imagine gifting a streamer an NFT from PlayerMint. That would, you know, bring a lot of exposure to our NFT platform that we eventually plan, like that, you know, is probably going to eventually happen. So just different ways you can incentivize the player.
I think there's there's potential here as well, like just on the topic of like streamers and stuff like that. There's potential for a future PIP to be implemented where you know, so either sponsors or founder token holders or PMX holders or whatever could verify and link their wallet to a streaming platform like Twitch or Veracity or something like that, and be rewarded in both that streaming platform's token and possibly PMX as well in return for watching the stream of either sponsored or founder token holder players playing games affiliated with PlayerMint, which would be a way of generating kind of like an audience and monetizing that kind of revenue stream to grow the platform. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, Aiden can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they do have future plans for a Twitch integration. So I'm not sure, what that would look like. But if you want to talk about that, Aiden.
Totally. Yeah. So we do really want to build out our standard roadmap is and you can find it in our Discord is we want to launch the founder products. That's almost like a beta where founder NFT holders can come in, earn PMX, trade PMX, and essentially enjoy the product. And then we'll do a full launch after we kind of take a little bit of break to incorporate any of the founder NFT, founder launch feedback. And then we'll do a full launch. So it's open to everyone. After that, we do want to build out a Discord bot and then a Twitch integration. So at that point, it'd almost be like, you can enjoy the benefits of PlayerMint on those two platforms. And one of them, for example, being more so Twitch specific is like NFT auctions. So for example, it makes a lot of sense that you have this live environment. I did not think about the idea, but I think it would make a lot of sense. We're already on Twitch. As you watch, you can gain those points. And if you click on the little treasure chest in the bottom right-hand corner by the chat, you gain more of the points, and then you can use those to redeem things like tasks. For example, a common one is hydrate or a highlighted message in the Twitch stream, or maybe it's a special emoji that you can unlock with a certain amount of points. So I think one thing that we could enable there is and going back to this idea where these streamers and these pros are going to be earning a lot of PMX, if we create a mechanism where they can essentially incentivize people to watch their streams by enabling those who watch for the longest and engage in chat and do things like highlighted messages and whatnot can essentially receive PMX for doing so. I think that's 100% something that we can look into. It's just still more so a matter of how can we make it as easy as possible to distribute out all those PMX before we have something like Hydra, so that these microtransactions of only a few PMX don't cost something like 0.2 ADA in order to be sent. So yeah, I think it's 100% possible. We want to build out that Twitch extension. It's in the roadmap. So once we get closer to that, I'm 100% open to hearing feedback and we can build it all out.
Yeah, awesome. That's really good to hear. It sounds like you guys have a really nice, clear direction and development ethos and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, no, we
and if
we have some good plans.
Specifically Vera, whose platform is Veracity. That would be one that I think you guys should keep your eye on and look into, because they've got a patented proof of view algorithm, which essentially, you imagine like how much money from advertisers on a platform like YouTube spend on essentially fake views of their ads if they're paying out per view of their advertisement. With something like Vera's proof of view algorithm, they're only paying every time an actual person views an actual advertisement. And so if that revenue stream model could be combined with watching a PlayerMint player, either sponsored or a founder holder or whatever, then that could be a good parallel to Twitch integration or to consider and watch the development of as the whole space evolves, I guess.
Yeah, I 100% agree that proof of view would definitely be needed if we did anything in regards to, get paid PMX. A streamer can essentially say, okay, I have this amount of PMX. I'll 1,000 of my PMX will be put into a pot where, for the next month, it will distribute out to people based off of their viewership. We would definitely need some sort of proof of view. A bit of a bummer that it's patented, but we can 100% look into making our own.
Would a Tala Prism be something that could take effect there, Aiden?
Yeah, in terms of a Tala Prism, a lot of that is based off of identity. I can try and piece some stuff together in terms of how that would be possible. But in terms of my initial ideas and inception of how that could all work out is that Tala Prism could more so verify that I'm an individual user, and instead of essentially enabling me to open up 10 different Twitch accounts, and then have all of those 10 Twitch accounts watching one person. I could essentially make it so if you want to earn PMX via watching my stream, you have to have an Atala Prism set up, and therefore you can't have something like 10 accounts all watching the stream at once. So it wouldn't as much solve the proof of view problem, but it would more so solve the making sure you essentially don't just create a bunch of fake email accounts and then a bunch of fake Twitch accounts based off of those to earn a bunch of PMX.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think the like with Atala Prism, so we're so early in this space, you know what I mean? Like all of this stuff is just in its absolute infancy at the moment. And so if you like, you know, give it a year or you know, longer, and the ecosystem behind these types of things is going to be so much more robust, particularly when it comes to stuff like, you know, cross-chain bridging, etc., which like even though Veracity, I believe, is a ERC20 token, once we've got, you know, Ada's ERC20 converter, as well as, you know, like the, you know, Hydra and Atala Prisms more built out, etc. I think that there's a lot of potential there to, like I think I heard you mention before, it's a shame that their algorithm is patented, but I really don't think that's a problem. I think it's an opportunity for you guys to potentially down the line reach out to the Veracity devs and do sort of like a collaboration where you build out the tokenomics of how the reward distributions work and all that sort of stuff together. And when we've got like the scalability infrastructure like Hydra and the cross-chain bridging, etc., I think it's an opportunity to, like, Twitch is a massive platform, and so for sure you guys should still pursue that. But as a parallel way of sort of integrating into a viewership model that's already based on the blockchain and already has those proof of view things in place, I think there's a lot of potential there for you guys to possibly reach out to them and collaborate.
Yeah, totally. I'll definitely look into messaging them. So I think that's a great idea. I'll definitely look into talking with them a little bit further, and who knows, maybe we can put together some fun stuff. We're definitely in the same world, so it makes sense, especially if we can convince them to come over to Cardano, or something of the nature. So yeah, I totally appreciate the suggestions.
Or even just wrap themselves on Cardano, or wrap a pool like specifically for, you know, the PlayerMint, not PMX, like distribution purpose. You know what I mean? Like there's so much potential. Obviously, I'm talking like well down the line. You know, to give you guys a lot of time to develop your core product and everything like that. But it's definitely that there's so much potential for integration with a bunch of different platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, do we have any more? I really appreciate the ideas and suggestions. Just really cool stuff. But just in the interest of the focus of this, and I don't want to take up too much of XRemX and TonyMontana's time. Does anyone else have more some questions that we haven't quite talked yet regarding the PIP, or ideas there, or questions, anything in that regard that people want to talk on? I just want to be essentially sensitive towards XRemX and TonyMontana's time. Awesome.
Yeah, I think we kind of wrap this up. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, TonyMontana, XRemX, is there kind of any last things you want to state? I just, like I said, I want to be sensitive towards your time and make sure that it looks like we got another question coming up here. But I just want to be, again, sensitive towards your time and not take up too much of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I had carved out a nice amount of time for this, so I'm okay. I'm not. I can't speak for XRemX, but I'm fine. I just want to make sure that we answer, you know, every question that you guys have, you know, to our fullest ability, with the information and, you know, with everything that's set up right now, that we can answer like the questions to the best of our ability.
Yep, I'm okay as well.
Hi guys, yeah, hi. I just wanted to get a recap from everything that you guys are speaking, right? And yeah, I guess there was a distinction earlier on between purple and green founders, and how we're just going to call ourselves just founders after this. But I think to wrap everything up, probably you guys could give us a quick summary on what exactly happened. I think that would be great.
Totally. Tony or XRemX, you all are the focus here. So if you all want to take that, you're more than welcome to. If not, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, so I guess for our proposal, we are proposing, to use the founder tokens that a lot of us have to provide an additional utility to those tokens by allowing us to rent out or stake the tokens to players who might not have the founder tokens, so that in addition to allowing them to earn or mint more player mints, the founders or the holder of the founder tokens would be able to benefit from that as well. And I think the very key objective of this is to allow people to earn through gaming, especially where places, or especially where you are just starting out in terms of esports, or you are very new, because as we know, the current challenges for esports team is that you have to be very established in order to get sponsors or endorsements or investments from VCs and large companies. And we hope to be able to grow the esports scenes by allowing underdogs or the new guys on the block to start earning as early as possible in order to allow them to transit from a small esports team to an established esports team where, maybe the corporates can take over while we continue building up that esports base.
And sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Just to touch on that, I think that's that's an aspect that's probably going to come into play a little bit later on. But esports gaming is a really big industry as well, and if somehow PlayerMint could propel people to start their own esports platforms, I just think that would be a win-win for founders, for gamers, for PlayerMint. So. Do you have any other questions as far as the recap goes, or did he kind of cover your questions?
Yeah, I think that was pretty good. Basically, it's a founder token is kind of like a multiplier for PMX. Yeah, for starting teams and for a lot of other people. I think it's pretty good. First of all, great idea, guys, and thanks. We'll be listening more to you guys and this platform.
And as far as the distinction, between founders, I don't think that was set in stone. I think that's just an idea that came up that will probably, come back up again. But, I think for the most part, like I said, I was on board with it. But I'm not the final say. So obviously, let some PlayerMint. So, but that was just a thought that was put out there, I believe.
Guys, there's also one risk here. It's like because while PlayerMint is still early, right? We'll be taking a portion of the winnings from the winners. But like in the future, when there's another competitor in the market, you would see a lot of players shifting between platforms because they don't want to be with a platform that's bleeding away their PMXs to a group of founders. I don't know how PlayerMint is going to protect themselves or the community if a competitor comes into the picture. But I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes later on, It's just something to think about for the future.
Yeah, great point. My response to that would be that's kind of why we made it so. And I think there's a small initial shock when people found out about this, but PlayerMint Pro isn't something that like anyone can earn PlayerMint Pro through holding a certain amount of PMX. So it's something that, for example, many people are going to be able to gain access to over the long run. So by the time when you have a competitor come around, you're going to have so many different utility aspects in which anyone can enjoy Pro. Or if you just have earned enough PMX at that point, you can also obtain Pro. So Pro isn't something that is restricted to purple and green founders. It is something that someone that comes and joins in our ecosystem in a year from now will be able to obtain with enough PMX. So it's more so of a network stability perspective. So making sure there's some sort of financial incentive to immediately out the gate hold a certain amount of PMX. Great.
Yeah, I think this whole industry is so early that even if competitors were to come into the space, there's room for many players in this niche to succeed, I think. And I guess that's kind of why all the tribalism you so often see in crypto cracks me up, because, 5-10 years from now, like, it doesn't matter who the absolute king is, because so many will have room to take their own market share in their own niche. And I think PlayerMint really has a good core product and a good core team. And I don't know, that gives me a fair amount of confidence that even if competitors were to arise, we'd remain competitive. But one quick, I guess, revision idea that I wanted to sort of put forward to the PIP would be, I guess, just to see what you guys would think about it and discuss. How would you feel if, for example, there was a percentage figure, say 2 to 5% of all the rewards earned by a sponsored player were to be redistributed to like a central pool that is only earnable by founders playing with their own founder tokens, just to kind of offset the, I suppose, disparity that might arise between the traditional gamers, founder holders that want to play for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I just touching back on what we were talking. I'm going to get to your second question, but as far as the confidence in the PlayerMint platform, I think Aiden touched on it best when he said GameFi. I don't know if you guys, I mean, obviously everyone here is in crypto, so you follow the buzzwords, but NFTs, passive income, blockchain gaming, all of these are like, really hot buzzwords. DeFi, with GameFi, you kind of incorporate all these different elements of the hottest sectors in crypto right now into one platform. So as far as confidence in PlayerMint and competitors, like I don't, I've been on PlayerMint for a while, before I even knew the founders tokens were going to be a thing. And it's just because when I saw what the concept was, I was like, wait, this is a no brainer. That's just my opinion, from my standpoint. But, as far as, redistributing for a pool for players, that would be up to Aiden and the PlayerMint team to decide. Like I said, my initial concept was maybe redistribute some a small feedback into the community DAO, because I believe that was, a metaverse DAO was one of the things that was going to eventually be created for PlayerMint. So that was my initial thoughts on it, but that would probably be more so on PlayerMint to decide.
Yeah, if anything, I'd almost think that we'd flip it. So, and maybe we can get some thoughts on this, but before we wrap up here, but my almost thought would be is that you would take a super, super small fee, like maybe even 0.5% of all sponsorship based earnings goes into enlarging the standard prize pool earned by everyone. Because then going back to Vindo Calrissian's idea of, well, hey, are you going to essentially disencourage people to use PlayerMint as soon as a competitor comes along, where if they don't have that pro, they can go somewhere else to earn more tokens? That could almost be a mechanism where then you're not just redistributing out based off of just being a part of the system, but rather you're redistributing out to enlarge a portion of the PlayerMint Pro pool, then enlarges the standard pool, and then anyone gaming is walking away with more PMX. So I think you could have it both ways, and maybe you even do both, where 0.5% goes to the standard pool, and then 0.5% goes to founders that are sponsoring themselves. So I think we could definitely play around with those mechanics. Yeah. So that would be my takeaway on that.
Yeah, cool. That sounds like an interesting model. I think that's definitely got a lot of potential there to be pretty close to the mark of something that would work. I think my concern is just that I don't think you'd want the ecosystem to become everybody, like every single PlayerMint founder token holder rents out their stuff to people, because it just becomes far more, I guess, lucrative to sponsor someone than to play yourself. So having at least something, like you said, like maybe 0.5% to enlarge the total prize pool, and then 0.5% for those that are sponsoring themselves would be like a really good model, I think.
Great. So I think Jay, if you want to ask your question to XRemX and TonyMontana, and then I think after that, unless anyone has a super burning question, we might call it there. I of course want to create as much time for you all as possible. So TonyMontana, XRemX, let me know if you all really want to keep on going, we can. But I think this might be the last one, just so we don't kind of keep on cycling through similar questions. So GA, feel free to ask.
No, I just want to add on to what asked Ashreya. Ashreya has brought out, because initially when we minted the founders NFT, the only difference between purple and green is that purple has PlayerMint Pro. So those person who minted purple would have maybe a very large interest or investment into actually using purple to go pro, or to really maximize gaming and to earn PMX. So in a sense, I understand what Astria is asking, because our concern is that when this sponsorship is allowed, then it's a no-brainer that we should just sponsor our NFTs out, you see, rather than gaming ourselves. So I'm just like, I agree what Astria is asking about.
I think that's why it's going to be important to not roll this out immediately, because it kind of lets PlayerMint control how it affects the ecosystem. But again, as we've stated before, if a player is just playing constantly, he can earn pro status without a founder's token, essentially. So it's still gonna, like, by the time this takes effect, it might not really have that much of an effect, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think this is additional utility, and if by staking we are able to help someone, or maybe even change their life even just by playing games, I think why not?
I think that's a great spot to call it. Unless TonyMontana, XRemX, this is your all's AMA, so if you all want to continue, we can. I think that's a great spot to call it, personally. So I'll let you all be the determiners of if you want to continue or not, or if you think that this has been a successful session. We can of course hold another one if people have more questions.
I mean, I think this is a good point. If you have any questions, you can always PM me. I'm sure XRemX wouldn't mind either. And if there are just a lot of burning questions, I guess we could technically hold another one. But I mean, I think we touched on a lot of topics.
Yep.
Great. Awesome. Well, I think the final thing that we need to do is all give just a huge, I know people in the audience can't really, unfortunately, we don't have emotes yet in Discord like we do on Twitter Spaces, but just maybe just saying it in your head, a massive thank you to XRemX and TonyMontana. Just absolutely incredible people that put in their own time just because they wanted to better an ecosystem they were a part of. We're all founders here, so this is just amazing that people are just taking it upon themselves to improve the system they're a part of. So I want to say a massive thank you to XRemX and TonyMontana for forming, creating, and being a part of the very first PIP to ever hit PlayerMint. So massive shout out, massive congratulations, and a massive thank you to you both.
You're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, we'll make sure that it's well documented that you two were the authors of this. So if we can look down 5-10 years down the line and say, oh, like, we're all these people that are enjoying the benefits of sponsoring, like, just remember who to thank.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And thanks for being so receptive as well to the PlayerMint team.
And thank you all for the question. Thank you all for the questions, and yeah.
Great. Well, if XRemX, TonyMontana, if either of you have a closing remark you want to state, feel free to. If not, we can call it here. And amazing job, everybody. Super excited for what we can do.
All right, guys. I'm good. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Awesome. Enjoy, everybody. Have a good one. Thank you so much. We'll be sure to do more AMAs and live events in the future. Hopefully the audio all came through in my recording, so I'll get this up on YouTube for you all. But please enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good one.